On this day, Aiden Leinster and Aaron the Zahads were declared legal spouses. The wedding turned out to be incredibly magnificent, presumably due to the fact that it was a combination of the offspring of very noble families. The guests considered the young bride and groom to be cuties, and it was assumed that the bonds of two hearts would only grow stronger over the years. No matter how you look at it, it was obvious that the girl ended up in the popular novel How to Protect Your Destiny. The saddest thing about it was that she ended up in the body of a famous scoundrel, Aaron Zahad. It was not difficult to guess what fate awaited the villain of such a novel. Young Aaron became the wife of a young man, Aiden Leinster. The two main characters in the novel, How to Protect Your Destiny, were named Aiden Leinster and Julia Charter. As fate would have it, they fall in love with each other. Besides them, there was a villainess who in every possible way prevented their love. It was Aiden's wife named Aaron Zahad, to whom he was betrothed at the age of 10. Aaron was the main culprit of all the hardships and suffering of Aiden during the period of their growing up together. She pestered him and his lover in every possible way. It all got to the point where the villain made an attempt on Julia's life. However, as in most such stories, Aaron will be executed for trying to destroy Julia Charter. In the end, the love of the hero and heroine will only grow stronger. Aaron Zahad will receive a fair punishment. In fact, the girl was 29 years old, and she died in an accident, and now found herself in the body of Aaron. She ended up in the body of a 10-year-old child, and therefore she is unlikely to be able to prevent Aiden's marriage Leinster and Julia Charter. Aaron was confused about putting two children in the same room on the first night, but the beds in the room were separate, and for that she was grateful. The girl had been given a couple of sex education lessons the day before, but it was very shameful. A nanny named Mona explained that even if she doesn't need this knowledge now, she needs to keep it at the ready. Aaron realized that she would see Aiden often for 10 years, and assumed that she should get closer to him since her whole life was on the line. She believed that a smile was a good way to make a good first impression of yourself. Aaron saw the boy for the first time. Without even thinking, she confessed to him that she considered him very handsome. The girl ruined a possible good relationship with Aiden even at the first meeting. He was unhappy with the way Aaron behaved. She tried to explain to the boy that she was glad to meet her, but he did not talk to her and turned away. Aaron tried to talk to Aiden since they were alone in the room. She invited the boy to get to know her and could not understand why he did not answer. After several attempts, the boy finally turned to Aaron and spoke to her. Aiden was disgusted by the girl and told her not to touch him. Aaron thought that Aiden looked down on her at the first meeting and considered such behavior arrogance. She was offended by him in response and lay down on her bed, turning away from him. For a long time, the girl could not sleep. She sat up on the bed and began to think about the fact that just recently she had been 29 years old, but now she was married to a 10-year-old boy. Aaron got out of bed and moved to the chair. The girl was bored because time dragged on so lazily. She secretly crept onto the boy's bed and thought that she would be able to look at him at least once. The girl looked at the soundly sleeping Aiden. She understood that although it was nothing more than a marriage of convenience, by the time she was 20, her relationship with the boy would be worse than that of strangers. Years later, Aiden would become head of the Duchy of Leinster, which belonged to a powerful family throughout the empire. He will control every piece of land, and people will call his name with trepidation. In the original story, Aaron fell in love with Aiden the first time they met, and it was like an obsession. The girl interfered with his fencing practice, and the boy got hurt. The girl was used to taking out her anger on everyone around her and did not hide it, so the maids suffered greatly. Aaron Zahad brought elders and other members of her family into the Loffinster house in order to further put pressure on Aiden. In the end, she refused to allow Aiden to end their marriage. At that time, they were already 20 years old. Aiden was beside himself and declared that he would soon go crazy. He demanded that Aaron stop poisoning his life, but the girl told him that he was wrong because they were one family. Aaron literally followed Aiden everywhere and interfered in his personal affairs in every possible way. Anyone in his place would want to end such a marriage. The girl looked and thought that the real Aaron's obsession was understandable. She believed that if she managed to get along well with Aiden, then she would be able to see his face more often. The girl assumed that everything would be fine if she didn't fall in love with him. After sitting on his bed for a while, Aaron realized that at this rate she would be staring at him all night, and therefore it was better not to give him unnecessary reasons to hate. Suddenly, Aiden began to make various sounds and sobs. Aaron was a little worried about what was happening to him, and she turned to him to inquire about his well-being. The girl observed the boy's condition for a bit and began to assume that he was now having a nightmare. Aiden began to breathe heavily, and Erin decided to check his forehead. She touched his head and admitted that he did not have a temperature, but she still could not understand what was happening to him now. Erin hovering over him. He did not expect the girl to come so close to him and was very unhappy. Aiden stood up a little and then hit the girl on the arm. Erin tried to find out how he was feeling, but the boy told her not to touch him. He threw off the blanket and sat up on the bed. Aiden was trembling all over, and the girl again tried to approach him and find out what was hurting him. However, the boy told her not to approach. Erin said that she would not touch him, but would just call the doctor for help. Aiden stated that they should not have called the doctor. The girl stopped and turned around. She didn't understand what was happening, but Aiden explained that he was fine and there was no need to call anyone. The boy wrapped his arms around himself and curled up and began to press himself to his knees. He explained that he would be fine by morning and once again asked not to touch him. Aiden explained that he was scared and did not want to be touched. Erin was perplexed because this was not at all the reaction that could be expected with ordinary hatred. In the original version, Aiden Leinster also didn't like it when Erin Zahad touched him. Now it became clear that the reason was not Erin herself. Morning came, but the girl still sat in the chair and watched Aiden. She thought that something had happened to the boy before his marriage. Erin knew that if she didn't want to get herself into trouble for 10 years, she should keep an eye on the boy, but she wasn't sure if he wanted to be looked after. After some time, Aiden woke up, and it was noticeable that he was no longer shaking. He sat up on the bed and silently looked at the girl. The girl began to ask him how he was feeling and whether everything was okay with him, but she never heard an answer. Aiden did not explain anything to Erin, but only jumped out of bed and got ready to leave. The girl looked at him and did not understand anything. The boy approached the door and began to unlock it. He told Erin to go to her room. After a little time, the girl went to take a bath, and the nanny helped her with this. The woman told Erin not to worry about anything and said that she would take care of everything. The girl was dressed in a beautiful dress, and then the nanny began to comb her hair. Erin at this time thought that from now on she had to not fall in love with Aiden in order to survive. She planned to save every coin so that when Julia appeared, she could divorce Aiden. Then she wanted to leave the empire in order to live a happy life in another country. The girl remembered the boy's state that he had at night, and this slightly cooled her desire to leave him. Nanny told Erin that the Duke and Duchess's meal was planned for today. The girl caught herself and admitted that she had completely forgotten about it. The woman was putting the girl's hair in order and said that she had heard that the Duke and Duchess had left the estate early in the morning. Erin became curious to know the reason for this departure. The nanny suggested that something urgent must have happened, because they were saying that it would take them at least half a month. The girl considered this news to be good for herself. Aiden had a problematic relationship with his parents, but now the girl has the opportunity not to think about them. Erin understood that she had half a month, during which she intended to find out what was happening with the boy. The girl had breakfast in the garden with the maids. They were pleasantly surprised that she allowed them to take her sweets and use her expensive dishes. Erin explained that she wanted to get closer to them. The maids really enjoyed the treats, and one of the maids admitted that the young lady was the first who took such care of them. Erin admitted to the maids that since her marriage, she had never had a chance to talk to Aiden. She said that she felt completely alone and knew practically nothing about her husband. The maids explained that they also knew little about the young master because he was clearly not the type who would talk to the servants. They thought he was very taciturn. The girl asked the maids about who could know Aiden. The maids suggested that these could be the knights with whom the boy was training. The maid said that no one knew the young master better than Madame Whitney, who was the boy's nanny. Erin was curious about this. Madame Whitney looked after the boy from birth, and perhaps she knew the young master even better than his parents. Aiden's daily routine was always very strict and was completely under the control of this woman. The girl thought that children of noble families grew up under the tutelage of their nannies from childhood, and in Erin's case, it was Nanny Mona. Erin suggested that she should find out about Madame Whitney. Aiden went to train with the knights. He sat on the floor without a mood and thinking about something. A man named Philip approached him and asked if the boy was glad that he had a wife. The boy responded by asking Sir Philip whether he liked being married. The man said that he enjoyed being married. Aiden asked to explain what exactly the knight liked about the marriage. Sir Philip touched his head and explained that he had married his first love and enjoyed spending a lot of time with her. The man said that he had moments when he quarreled with his wife, but then they made up again. Aiden lowered his head and admitted that it was impossible, and he was afraid. 3 days had already passed, but Aiden did not want to appear in front of the girl. Aaron was a little worried that the boy didn't show up to either dinner. If the girl managed to find out from the servants where they saw him, then by the time the girl arrived, Aiden had disappeared from that place. Aaron began to notice that her attempts to meet the boy were similar to how in the original story of the novel, the girl followed Aiden everywhere. The girl did not want to be like the heroine of the novel, but decided that she would think about solving this a little later. At one point, she still managed to meet the boy. Aaron was delighted that her connections with the servants were finally bearing fruit. The maids promised the girl that they would let her know as soon as they saw the master. Aiden was a little alarmed that the girl had found him. He didn't talk to her, and after a couple of moments, he turned around and walked away. Aaron tried to talk to him, but it was in vain. The boy stopped briefly and looked at Aaron with contempt. With just one glance, he made it clear that he did not want to see her. The girl thought that she had not yet had time to do anything, but she had already received such an attitude towards herself. She came closer to Aiden and touched his arm just above the elbow. The boy called the girl an abomination and then hit her on the arm. He was very irritated and reminded her that he told her not to touch him. Aaron began to examine her palm, which was red from the blow. She supposed that she was very disgusted with the boy. The girl suggested to Aiden that she could just pretend not to know him. In fact, she couldn't understand the reason for this. At that moment, a dark-haired woman in a lilac dress approached them. Aaron thought it was the same Madame Whitney. The woman immediately approached the boy and took his hand. She assumed that he felt ill and offered to escort him to his room. Aaron was a little worried, but when she saw how the nanny touched the boy, she began to understand that the reason lay in this woman. Madame Whitney tried to calm Aiden and asked him if he wanted to go to his room. In the original novel, Aiden did not allow any woman to approach him, with the exception of Julia. Aaron found it strange that Aiden started avoiding her even before meeting Julia Charter. The boy's behavior was to blame for this behavior of his nanny. The woman used her position to force Aiden to obey her unquestioningly. Madame Whitney tortured him both mentally and physically, and thus caused him trauma, due to which he would not be able to trust others. Without realizing it, Aaron made this injury worse. The girl could not believe that this problem was not really described in the novel. She demanded that the nanny let the boy go. The woman replied that everything was fine, and the girl should not worry about it. At this moment, Aaron began to take off the cape that covered her shoulders. The girl completely took off her cape and wrapped it around Aiden. The nanny took her hand away from the boy and was a little alarmed by what Aaron was doing. Madame Whitney stated that the young lady did not understand the whole situation since she'd only recently moved to the estate. Aaron asked me to explain to her what difference this made. The girl explained to the woman that the fact was that she was the mistress and bride of the Leinster family. The woman was outraged by the girl's statement, but did not argue with her, but only asked for forgiveness for her behavior. Aaron looked at the boy, who looked very depressed, and invited him to go for a short walk with her. The girl hugged Aiden and went for a walk with him, while the dissatisfied nanny remained behind and looked after them. It was believed that there was not a single soul who had not heard of the House of Leinster. No one in this world dared to look down on them, and they were certainly the most revered family in the empire. Leinsters were born to protect and glorify their family even louder. They made pride, honor, and wealth flow under their names. Aiden said that Madame Whitney told him that the girl lacked patience and perseverance. She answered him that the nanny had served the family for many years, and therefore it was necessary to follow her instructions. The nanny convinced the boy that in the future he would become the head of our house and lead the whole family. Aiden believed that he could not follow other people's instructions all his life. He believed that he must build up his own power, independent of the Leinsters. He didn't know if he could escape before he grew up, because Whiteley constantly told him to listen to her. The nanny explained to the boy on the eve of the wedding ceremony that from now on he would have even greater responsibility, because the marriage was the conclusion of an alliance between two families. Madame Whiteley said that the boy should under no circumstances disgrace their house, because it was necessary to take into account that the Zahad family would try to take control of their lands using their daughter. The woman told the boy that he was often distracted and forgets about manners, and because of this, the young lady could easily manipulate him. The nanny convinced him that the Zahad family wanted to get everything that Aiden owned, and he should not trust them. She insisted that a merciful man could not be the head of the Leinsters. The boy thought that coming from Madame Whiteley it sounded meaningless, But the woman insisted that there was no way to show weakness, and he became increasingly convinced that she was right. During her instructions to the boy, the nanny painfully held his hand slightly below the shoulder. She insisted that Aiden should have been very careful and followed her instructions. After her words, the boy trembled all over, but the nanny continued to say that he was rather naive, and therefore she was obliged to look after him even more diligently. Aiden was left alone, and tucking his knees, lay down on the bed. He remembered the nanny's words that the girl would take everything from him in an instant if he seemed like an easy prey and could not calm down. He lay on the bed and kept thinking about how the girl covered him with her cape and hid him from the nanny. Aaron went out onto the balcony and began to think that Julia Charter was destined for Aiden, and it was very charming to meet her after so many years of torment. The girl could afford to allow an innocent child to endure terrible torment for several years. She assumed that this was just her desire of an adult, who was in the body of a child, to protect the child. Aaron intended to help Aiden overcome his trauma even before the divorce. She believed that since his meeting with Julia was prescribed in the plot, then small changes would not change anything. After some time, Aiden went to training, where he used a sword to chop targets in half. The boy stopped to take a breath and began to dry himself with a towel. At that moment, he noticed someone in a green dress walking towards him and calling Aiden by name. Aaron came to his training Zahad. The girl looked very joyful and friendly. She waved to him and then said hello. Aiden silently looked at the girl and wiped his face with a towel. The boy did not answer her. Aaron didn't wait for him to talk to her and rushed forward. The girl quickly walked past him. She approached the knights who were training with the boy. The men wondered what brought the young lady to them, and they asked her about it. Aiden was very surprised that the girl went to the knights and told them that she would live in this estate and she should say hello to them. Men thought it was very cute. Sir Philip leaned towards the girl and quietly suggested that their master could be a little rude. She covered her mouth with her hand to keep her voice down and replied that Aiden was just a little rude. Aaron told the knights that she could forgive the boy because he was very handsome, but warned that it was a secret. The men laughed loudly at the girl's words, and Aiden became curious as to why they were having fun. The boy took a step towards the knights and the girl, but at that moment someone called him and Aiden stopped. Behind him stood the nanny, who was the reason why Aiden did not go to the knights. He couldn't decide where he should go. Madame Whitney looked at him and insisted that it was time for the boy to start his homework. He hesitated and didn't know what to answer the nanny, but at that moment, Aaron came up from behind and emphasized that, in fact, the boy was now busy talking. The woman tried to contradict the girl. Aaron suggested that Aiden could sit down for homework after he finished socializing. The nanny grabbed the boy's hand and said that the young master had a busy schedule, and therefore it would be better for the girl to talk to him another time. Madame Whitney began to insist that it was time for Aiden to leave. Aaron told the nanny to take her hands off the boy and step back. The woman did not want to let Aiden go, but the girl repeated her demand. Aaron rushed to the nanny and pushed her away from the boy. He didn't expect the girl to be able to do this and was very excited. Madame Whitney was outraged by what Aaron had done, but the girl was determined to keep Aiden away from the nanny. Aaron stated that she and Aiden needed to discuss something, and so he would go with her. The nanny replied that if the girl behaved like this, she would have to report it to the Duke. Aiden could not allow himself to interfere in the conversation and only anxiously watched what was happening. The girl said that she was not against the woman talking about it. Aaron explained that it may be a day, or perhaps a year, until she leaves, but until now she was the young mistress of this house. The woman looked at the girl with contempt and anger, but no longer dared to contradict her. She was unhappy that she could not take Aiden with her. The girl decided to leave the training ground. She took Aiden's hand and led him away from Madame Whitney. The children went out into the yard, and Aiden asked the girl to explain why she intervened. The boy said that his parents trusted Madame Whitney very much. The boy said that the nanny would later say bad things about the girl. Aaron assumed it was all because she wanted to get closer to him. The girl explained that the spouses should be allies, and from now on they should stick together. She noticed that until now they had not been able to talk. Aiden was very excited, but Aaron suggested that they would rather be friends at this age, but she would be on his side, and asked him to support her in return. The boy thought that his communication with the girl was different from what Madame Whitney had told her. He asked to ask Aaron a question, and she happily agreed to it. Aiden asked what his friends were doing. Aaron sighed and thought that she would have to start all over again. The girl explained that friends usually eat and play together, or something like that. Aiden began to imagine how this could happen. The boy asked to tell what the allies were doing then. Aaron thought a little and explained that they have fun together and help each other, but sometimes they fight. Aiden couldn't believe that people were really doing all this, but the girl confirmed her words. He admitted that he had never tried anything like this and was not sure. Aaron leaned closer to him and calmed the boy down. She explained that everything was happening in a lot of fun. The boy still had a little doubt, but was still able to overcome himself and joyfully declared that he wanted to be on the same side with the girl. After his words, he assumed that he said it without thinking, but Aaron was still delighted that she was able to achieve this and even blushed a little. In the evening, Aaron was left alone with Nona. The girl thought about how the boy, who trembled at the mere sight of Aaron, was so happy after she offered him friendship. The girl was very happy, because even her enemies could not resist her lovely smile. She wanted to remain a loyal friend to the boy until they divorced. Aaron believed that Madame Whitney should have been gotten rid of as soon as possible so that she would not interfere with her friendship with Aiden. The nanny finished doing the girl's hair and asked if Aaron wanted anything else. Aiden lay on the bed in his room and thought about what happened today. He remembered the girl and began to understand what his other half was. The boy didn't see anything wrong with this. The next day, Aiden went out into the yard and met a girl there. Aaron spread her arms out to the sides and cheerfully greeted him good morning. Aiden looked at the girl, who smiled welcomingly and did not ignore her, but greeted her back. The girl couldn't believe that Aiden returned her greeting. She thought that next time she might even be able to shake hands. Aaron asked him where he was going. The boy replied that he was going to the training ground. The girl offered to go to training together. Aiden was a little surprised by her proposal, but Aaron explained that they were now friends. She promised the boy that she would not interfere in his studies. Aiden thought for a while, but agreed to go with her. After a while, the girl became very tired and thought that she should work on her stamina. She noticed that Aiden didn't even break a sweat from their walk. At this time, someone was approaching them. The girl noticed something moving and pointed her finger. The children were a little excited about what they saw ahead. A cart was rushing down the slope at high speed. The maid tried to hold the cart, but she could not. The girl was very scared and screamed loudly. Within a moment, a stone fell under the wheel of the cart, and it overturned, and the maid fell next to Aiden. The maid began to apologize and began to blame herself for her clumsiness. The maid began to stand up and said that she was truly sorry for what happened. The girl accidentally touched the boy's hand, and he told her to move away from him. Aaron stood behind the maid. The girl recognized the maid, whose name was Wendy, and turned to her. Aaron explained to the girl that everything was fine and she should get up and move on. Aaron asked the maid to hurry up, and the girl apologized again in response. The maid was surprised that the girl remembered her name. After Wendy removed the cart, the girl looked at Aiden, who pulled his knees up to him and was shaking all over again. The girl thought that just agreeing to be friends and a couple of conversations would not be able to fully help the boy, but now she felt as if they were back on the first night. Aaron sat down next to him under the tree, and the boy was still nervous and could not understand why he always had to suffer. The girl reminded Aiden of her words, that since they were spouses, Aaron would now be on his side. The boy listened but did not answer her. Aaron tried to calm Aiden down and explained that he could let his emotions out and cry. After a while, Aiden calmed down and was able to get up. He invited the girl to move on, but Aaron warned him that she had to do something else. The girl apologized for asking to go with him and promised that next time she would definitely come to watch his training. The boy agreed to go to training alone and went forward. Aaron was ashamed of having to leave Aiden alone, but she needed to resolve the issue with Wendy before Madame Whitney found out about it. The girl returned to the estate and met with the maid. She explained to the girl that in the worst-case scenario, Aiden could have been seriously injured, and this would have resulted in a very severe punishment. Aaron assumed that Wendy understood that some people could make a disaster out of even this incident. The maid was very frightened and really did not want Madame Whitney to find out about it. The girl took the maid's hands and explained that there was no need to worry about it, because if Wendy was careful, then no one would know about it. The maid was very grateful to Aaron for calming her down. The girl held Wendy's hands and thought that warm palms brought comfort better than ordinary words. Aaron was sad because she wanted to hold Aiden's hands too, but at the moment it would not bring him any comfort. She decided that she would take her time so as not to make mistakes. Aiden trained with the knights and sometimes glanced at the doors. He thought about the fact that he had not crossed paths with Aaron for several days, although previously she came to him every morning. Sir Philip was very assertive in training, but Aiden managed to parry all his blows and even began to attack the knight with even greater zeal. The boy managed to defeat the knight, and he put his wooden sword to the man's neck. Sir Philip noticed that Aiden was able to express himself, even while staring to the side. Aiden asked if a man could call his wife a friend. The knight explained that from childhood he grew up and was friends with his wife and saw good and bad things with her. Then the boy asked what his friends usually do. Sir Philip replied that he loved to play and fool around, and also ride horses with his friends. After the knight's words, Aiden threw his sword and headed towards the exit. The man asked where the young master was going, but the boy did not answer. Erin was sad alone and thought about the fact that 3 whole days had already passed, and she still did not dare to approach Aiden. The girl believed that after the stress he received, she would only make the situation worse. She stood in the garden and worried that there was a risk that by meeting Aiden, she would aggravate the injury. A few moments later, the boy approached Erin and noticed that they had not seen each other for a long time. The girl was very surprised that he himself came up and said hello. Erin told him she missed him. Aiden walked forward past the girl and told her that he was going to training. The girl noticed that the training ground was on the other side. Aiden explained that today there will be a different training session, namely horse riding practice. The boy said that to do this, he would have to go up the mountain, but it was not so steep, and therefore it would be quite easy to get there. Erin was very intrigued by what he was going to do. The girl asked Aiden for permission to go with him, and he responded by asking if she wanted to. The children went to practice together. Erin walked behind the boy and thought that for the last 3 days she was afraid that Aiden would avoid her, but it seemed that he was still thinking about her. Erin wondered why their relationship was developing so sweetly, but then she found herself thinking that she shouldn't be enjoying it. After a while, Aiden stopped and asked the girl if she was tired. Erin thought that the boy was starting to worry about her. The girl began to understand what Aiden's true character was. She noticed that the boy was polite, shy, and very sweet. Erin tried to think about it again. They were just friends. The children arrived at the place appointed by Aiden. A couple of horses and a small table with treats under a canopy were waiting for them on a small lawn. The man showed the children the table and said that everything had already been prepared by order of Mr. Aiden. The knight invited the young lady to sit down. The girl was delighted that the boy ordered all this to be prepared and invited her here. Aiden became embarrassed and was a little dissatisfied with Philip's behavior. The knight noticed that the boy suddenly wanted to practice horse riding, although his skills were already well honed. Aiden explained that the body can get out of habit if you don't practice. The boy easily climbed onto the horse, which seemed huge in comparison with him, and grabbed the reins. Erin was so stunned that he was able to control such a large horse that she even opened her mouth in surprise. Aiden commanded the animal to move, and the horse jumped up as high as possible. This did not frighten the boy, and he skillfully continued to stay in the saddle. He was always incredibly talented, and the boy's fighting skills were recognized as the best in the entire empire. Sitting behind a dark curtain, Aiden will secretly hold absolute power in his hands in the future. Erin started clapping her hands and shouted out to the boy that he was incredible. The servants were very surprised that the girl behaved this way. The girl approached Aiden and asked him how he managed to ride a horse so well. The boy suggested Erin try a ride. The girl was doubtful, but he explained that there were no steep hills nearby, and therefore there was no need to worry. Erin was very excited by the boy's proposal and began to remember the cool heroines from the novels. The girl joyfully shouted that she wanted to try to ride. She was very happy at that moment. The boy extended his hand to her, and Erin thought that he wanted the girl to ride with him on the same horse. Erin looked at Aiden and realized that it was impossible to sit with him, even though the girl did not know how to ride a horse. She believed that the boy might feel bad again because of her. The girl suddenly turned to Philip and asked him to put her on the horse. The knight was surprised and assumed that Erin wanted to ride with him. Aiden was at a loss because Erin didn't want to go with him. The boy did not like that she chose Philip, but on the other hand, he himself did not understand why he did not want her to travel separately. The knight easily placed the girl on the horse, and he himself positioned himself behind. The man advised her to hold on as tightly as possible. Erin enjoyed riding the horse and happily talked about it. In truth, the girl was a little scared because she had a small body. Aiden rode behind and looked with envy at how cheerful Erin and Sir Philip rushed forward on horseback. The boy thought that it was still difficult for him to touch anyone, but he extended his hand to the girl without even thinking to invite her to sit with him. Aiden catches up with Philip and the girl, and then tries to touch her. Erin looks around excitedly and says that the boy scared her. The girl suddenly pulled her hand back and lost her balance a little. Sir Philip and the boy began to worry that Erin would not fall from her horse. A moment later, Erin manages to get back into the saddle. After this, the girl grins and says that she keeps her balance well, and therefore there is no need to worry about her. Dismounting from his horses, Sir Philip said that he did not see Madame Whitney anywhere. The knight noticed that before, even with the slightest changes in the training schedule, she always came and demanded an explanation from him. Aiden saw how the girl interacted with the knights and servants. He thought that she got along quite easily with those around her. The boy was unhappy when he saw one of the knights kneel and kiss the girl's hand. Aiden thought that the girl was very quick to reject him, but did not shy away from the others, even after calling him her friend. At the estate, the maids surrounded Madame Whitney. They apologized for bothering her since the morning, and then confessed that she was the only one they could trust in one matter. The woman sternly replied that she had already told them that the maids themselves could deal with this matter. Mona chuckled and explained that there were several things that concerned the young mistress, because each family had an individual approach. The girl's nanny said that she had not yet been acquainted with the structure of this estate. Behind Madame Whitney, the maids winked at Mona. The woman began to get annoyed that the maids wanted something from her. Mona asked for this favor and explained that it can be difficult for her to relearn something new. Madame Whitney was unhappy that the girl's nanny began to contact her. Mona said that the young lady wanted to see the boy's nanny. Erin was left alone and thought that it was not surprising that Aiden was very talented, since he was the main character. However, at first he seemed weak to the girl because of Madame Whitney. She knew from the novel that upon reaching the age of 11, Aiden would secretly begin to work on his own business and achieve results that would allow him to influence the entire empire. The girl believed that if the opportunity arose, she would need to ask Aiden to join his project. Erin intended to increase her wealth in this way by the time of the divorce. Whitney entered the girl's room. The woman turned to the girl and said that she had been told that the young lady wanted to see her. Erin looked at the boy's nanny with a grin and explained that she wanted to tell her something. The woman noticed that it was a coincidence, because she also wanted to say something to the girl. Madame Whitney didn't have time to finish speaking when Erin asked her not to keep an eye on Aiden anymore. The woman wanted to know what the girl meant and asked her about it. The girl explained that from now on, Madame Whitney was relieved of her nanny duties. At that moment, the woman became very angry with the girl. The boy's nanny began to argue and said that, even despite the girl's status, the young mistress has no right to make such decisions. Erin intended to inform the Duke and Duchess of this upon their return, and told Madame Whitney about this. The girl could not allow the young master to be pushed around. Aiden since birth, and it was her direct responsibility. She insisted that she knew him best and had to support him. The girl explained that it would be more correct to call the woman's support the boy's coercion. Erin understood that the nanny was pushing around Aiden with an unformed worldview. Madame Whitney stated that she never overstepped her bounds and suggested that the young lady, who had been on the estate for less than a month, could not control the fate of the heir. Erin replied that the woman would have the opportunity to discuss this, but until then she was relieved of her duties, because now there was no one else in the estate whose word would carry more weight than hers. Aiden walked around the yard and thought that he was still scared at the thought of coming into contact with people. He looked at his palm and realized that with Erin everything was different. The boy looked at his hand and assumed that he was not afraid to touch Erin because she was genuinely concerned about him. Aiden was worried about whether he wanted to touch her and whether he was capable of it. Aiden sat down under a tree and began to think. He wanted to know if it was true that Erin was on his side. The girl went out into the yard for a walk. She enjoyed the lovely weather, which was flavored with the wonderful aroma of flowers. Erin felt incredibly refreshed by the fact that Madame Whitney would not bother Aiden, even though that had been the case for a while. After a short walk, the girl saw Aiden in the garden, dozing under a tree. Erin was very happy to see him and intended to get closer. The girl quietly sat down next to him and thought that for the first time since the first meeting, she had sneaked up again to look at this little face. Erin assumed that the boy's condition had improved slightly because Aiden no longer avoided her and even smiled when he met. She looked at Aiden and was proud that the boy was now able to smile. Erin became more and more convinced that his face was the most perfect and capable of driving you crazy. At this moment, the boy was only pretending to be asleep. He thought that Erin liked his face because she had been looking at him for quite a long time. Aiden remembered that he had previously caught her fascinated gaze on himself. The boy began to assume that at this rate the girl could approach him. The girl extended her hand forward and touched the boy's hair. Aiden felt this and realized that he was fine and was no longer frightened by her touch. Erin began to remove her hand, but Aiden wanted her to continue touching him. The boy opened his eyes, and this made the girl worried. The girl completely removed her hand. At that moment, Aiden stood up and moved as close to Erin as possible, and then kissed her. Erin touched her lips with her hand and blushed deeply. She didn't expect this to happen now. The boy thought that Erin was unpleasant that they kissed. The girl grinned and put her palms forward. Erin was excited and assumed it was an accident. She began to apologize and say that she did not want to touch Aiden. The boy thought that this was not the case at all, which means it was all because of him. Erin asked if everything was okay with the boy. He didn't answer, but just thought that the girl was really worried about him. The boy had enough of human attention before. Some were worried about his fencing skills, and others about his academic performance. Some were worried about the boy's health in order to inherit the title, but no one was worried about him, namely about what was happening inside himself. Aiden looked at how the girl was worried about his well-being and realized that she was really worried about him. The girl explained to him that it was normal for friends to share light kisses, and that friends could hold hands and hug. The boy once again clarified whether what the girl said was true. Erin was a little confused, but confirmed her words. She thought that kissing was unusual, but it wasn't anything extremely wrong. Aiden smiled and asked to take the girl's hand. Erin was very excited that the boy himself offered the handshake. The girl was very excited and asked him if the boy was sure of this. Aiden explained that he just wanted to try something friendly. Erin was still a little unsure, but she allowed him to take her hand. The boy touched the girl's hand and noticed that now he could really touch her. Aiden was very pleased to touch the girl's palm. He said that he was very happy about it. Erin asked the boy to repeat what he just said. The boy looked into Erin's eyes and admitted that he was very glad that the girl became his wife. From that moment on, Aiden did not let go of Erin's hand. They began to walk together in the garden, and all the servants saw this and were very surprised. The girl looked at the happy Aiden and thought that if her palm became sweaty, it might confuse the boy, but it was much better than when he hid in fear. Erin was very pleased and could not believe that such chaotic words could have a great effect. Aiden stopped and asked on what occasions do friends hug. Erin hesitated a little, but the boy said that he wanted to try to hug her. The girl was glad that Aiden said this without a drop of embarrassment, but warned that even friends cannot hug without a reason. The boy intended to do everything that was customary among his friends. He asked Erin about how far friends could go in a relationship. The girl looked at Aiden and thought a little. Erin assumed that practicing physical contact in the future would allow the boy to get along more easily with others. Erin let go of Aiden's hand and then hugged him. She said that they do this when they congratulate each other on something. The girl explained that they hug friends in those moments when they want to give a feeling of comfort or intend to cheer up a loved one. Erin admitted to Aiden that she wanted to cheer him up and said that she hoped that all troubles would bypass the boy and that his path would be strewn with soft leaves. At that moment, Madame Whitney, from the window of the mansion, saw Erin hugging the boy and was very unhappy with this. After a while, Aiden happily announced that he wanted to show the girl something and then led her along. The boy brought her into the office and showed her the documents. He explained that his family owns several business projects. Aiden invited the girl to look at the papers. Erin was a little embarrassed, but the boy really wanted to share it. He said that he personally supervised the projects, and at that moment he was like a puppy. The girl thought that such an intervention would not be too arrogant on her part, and maybe she shouldn't be in such a hurry. Erin came up with the idea that Aiden suspected the girl of something and wanted to check. At this point, the boy explained that if some details were not clear to the girl, then she could ask. She looked at the documents, which were written in a very unusual handwriting that belonged to Aiden. The girl could not believe that he was doing all these things himself. Erin picked up one of the documents and began to examine it. The boy explained that this particular project was not so profitable because there was no prospect of high income in it. Judging by the entries in one of the reports, Aiden intended to attract additional profit from the family's existing projects, and with the accumulated surplus, he plans to create his own fund. After studying the documents, the girl realized that he still had to find a way to launder income. The girl suggested that she could help Aiden with his affairs and asked permission to join his business project. The boy admitted that he was very pleased that Erin wanted to help him do his business. It seemed to the girl that Aiden had little faith that she was capable of bringing significant benefit. Aaron thought that the boy wanted to take on all the difficulties. Unexpectedly, Aaron invited the boy to go somewhere together. Aiden was not against it, and said that he would order a carriage to be prepared for this. The girl was wondering why Aiden didn't even ask about where they were going. The boy smiled and explained that they would be together, and the rest did not matter to him. Aaron was confused and tried to explain that she meant something else. The girl began to worry that Aiden told her about his projects too easily. The boy was a little surprised and asked the girl if she was on his side. Aiden then pointed out that he and Aaron were friends. The girl was overjoyed because she managed to establish a relationship with the boy. She was on his side with all her heart and could not imagine that it could be otherwise. Aaron walked up to the boy and put her hand on his shoulder. She tried to hide her feelings of joy and explained that Aiden shouldn't have trusted people so easily. After some time, Aaron and Aiden set off and found themselves at the entrance to the bank. The girl asked Aiden to follow her. The girl entered the building and asked the staff to show her the funds that were registered in Aaron's name, Zahad. At the bank, the children were greeted and thanked for their visit. They were seated on the sofa and even offered tea. One of the employees showed the girl a document containing capital in the girl's name. Aaron looked at the document and realized that although she was not a favorite daughter, she was still lucky with the profit before the wedding. The girl put the piece of paper on the table and showed it to Aiden. She said that all this money was at his disposal. The boy took the document in his hands, and Aaron explained that even if the entire amount was withdrawn, no one would know about it, as well as the fact that it would all be spent. The girl said that now Aiden won't have to take any more risks. The boy asked her if she was sure that she wanted to give him all her savings. Aaron drank some tea and looked at Aiden with one eye. She explained that her monetary contribution could be considered an investment. The boy was a little surprised by the girl's action, but she suggested that if Aiden's business turned out to be profitable, then Aaron could count on good pay. Aiden noticed that the girl believed that he would be able to succeed in his business project. Aaron smiled back at him and reminded him that they were on the same side. The boy was very grateful and thought that no matter what it cost him, he would pay the girl many times over. The girl noticed that today was their first time going out somewhere together and suggested they have some more fun somewhere else. The children went to the streets of the city to the shopping stalls. The merchants were touched by the fact that the children were holding hands. They began to be offered flowers and various treats. The girl took one of the treats on a stick. Such food seemed unfamiliar to Aiden, and therefore he did not take it. Aaron noticed this and asked if he would eat it. Aaron handed the treat to the boy and offered to try it. Aiden was a little embarrassed, but after a few moments he took a bite. The girl saw him trying the treat and grinned. Aiden noticed that Aaron was a little strange. The girl was surprised and wanted to know why he thought so. The boy explained that he was with a girl of the same age, but she treated him like a child. Aaron was thrilled to spend time with him. Happy Aiden took the girl's hand again and led her forward. He said that he was older than her, and after all, they were friends. Aaron looked at him and thought that the boy was still so young and was already capable of leading people by the nose. Aiden warned that there would be a lot of people next, and the girl should under no circumstances let go of his hand. At some point, there were a lot of people, and Aaron could not hold the boy's hand, and then quickly lost sight of Aiden. The girl was confused and could not understand where Aiden had gone. She looked around and even began to call him loudly. In one of the alleys, Aaron saw a trembling boy sitting on the floor with his head down. Aaron immediately rushed to the boy's aid. The girl was in a hurry and started calling Aiden. The boy stood up and immediately began to hug Aaron. She explained that if Aiden was uncomfortable, he should let her know. Aiden admitted that he was at peace only with Aaron and not with anyone else. The girl thought about the fact that she still needed to work on the boy's condition. Aaron understood that the injury was not something that could be gotten rid of in a couple of days, and therefore there was no need to rush. She asked the boy to listen to her rather difficult request. The girl explained that she was pleased to always be near him, but, unfortunately, it was impossible to do this all the time, and therefore what happened now could happen again. Aaron suggested that Aiden try to connect with other people in the same way that he was used to physical contact with her. After some time, the boy approached Aaron, who was sitting on the bench, and told her that he had returned. The day she asked Aiden to fight his illness, he gave her an unexpected answer. Now the girl was very excited when Aiden came to her. The boy bowed low to Aaron and asked her to praise him. The girl was a little confused and didn't know what to answer, The day before, Aiden was sympathetic to trying to overcome his illness. He promised to try, although it would not be easy for him, but he asked to receive something as a reward for this. The boy asked to be praised, and the girl began to stroke him and say that he did a great job. Aiden said Wendy dropped her hairpin, and he picked it up and handed it to her. Aaron asked if it was difficult for him to do this. Aiden replied that it was just a little difficult. The boy didn't tell her that he had actually lost his breath. Aiden really liked the way Aaron praised him and asked if the girl would reward him twice a day. Aaron replied that she would praise him as many times as he tried. A few days later, the maids were doing chores around the estate and were discussing how Aaron and Aiden were spending more time with each other. One of the maids noticed that the young mistress was waiting for Mr. Aiden until he finished his homework, and when the boy saw Aaron, a smile immediately appeared on his face. The maids came across Madame Whitney, who was coming to meet them. The nanny overheard the girls happily discussing Aaron and Aiden's relationship. The woman was very angry about what she heard from the maids. The maids politely apologized and said that they still had a lot to do. Aaron and Aiden went out to lunch together. The girl tried the delicacies and told the cook that it was the first time she had tasted such delicious eclairs. The man thanked the girl for the compliment. The boy watched Aaron and thought that the girl easily found a common language with others, even despite the unfamiliar surroundings. The girl was very friendly to everyone, and Aiden thought she was incredible. He didn't know that Aaron had the social skills of a 29-year-old girl. The children had lunch in one of the sweet shops. Aaron suggested that the business of this establishment could grow quite well in the future because all their ingredients were at the highest level. The girl knew that in the original version, this store would be an incredible success. Their brand will become the largest chain of stores in the entire empire, and all thanks to the support of a certain person. Aaron wasn't entirely sure whether Aiden was the right person or whether a third party was involved, but now was the opportunity to be the first to invest. The girl thought that she still had to convince Aiden to invest money, and therefore there was no need to rush things. Aaron suggested the boy try a muffin. The delicacy was not too sweet, and at the same time had a rich aroma. Aaron assumed the boy liked the treat. Aiden looked around, and then looked out the window and assessed the place in which they were. The boy suggested that they should invest in this store. Aaron was very surprised by this. The boy explained that it was just a passing thought. Aaron was very excited, because she herself did not expect that Aiden would start thinking about investing so quickly. Aiden was a little doubtful that this was an investment in such a modest business, but he believed that even this was not worth telling anyone. He was particularly referring to nobles who were accustomed to investing in larger commercial organizations. Aaron listened to the boy and agreed with him. She thought that she was lucky that Aiden was aware of such things, and said that even a small piece of cake could grow into a huge project. In the evening, Mona was brushing the girl's hair and noticed that the young lady looked very happy. The nanny suggested that Aaron really liked Aiden. Mona explained that the girl had recently gotten married and was still very young. She believed that the girl had grown a lot, and she even managed to experience love. Aaron didn't think about falling in love with a boy and objected to the nanny. The girl explained that she and Aiden were just friends. There was going to be a main character in the future, and Aaron was just helping overcome the trauma. The girl assumed that this is exactly what her friend should have done. Mona remembered and told the girl that the Duke and Duchess would soon return to the estate, and most likely this would happen the day after tomorrow. The day came when the boy's parents returned to the estate. Children and servants came out into the courtyard to greet the Duke and Duchess. The boy's father's name was Logan Leinster and mother Isabella Leinster. Aiden's parents got out of the carriage and saw that their son and his wife were meeting them. The boy greeted the Duke and Duchess politely, and Aaron thought that their every step, glance, and even breath emanated grace. The girl curtsied and said affably that she was glad to meet Aiden's parents, like Aaron Leinster. The Duke greeted Aaron in response, and his wife Isabella said that she was glad to meet the girl. The girl was a little excited when she talked to Aiden's parents, because they were nobles. She had the impression that every word they said came with heavy weight. Unexpectedly, the Duchess told the children to return to their place and rest, and tomorrow they would be able to reunite properly. After these words, the boy's parents walked past everyone straight into the estate. At the estate, servants reported to the Duke and Duchess about incidents that happened in their absence. The employee presented Logan with Leinster documents with an offer from the Presbyterian Church. The maids provided the Duchess with records of the estate's internal expenses, and Madame Whitney asked for an account of the young master. Isabella listened carefully to the nanny's report. The woman told her that the boy worked hard during morning training and studies, and also took an active part in the internal affairs of the family. Madame Whitney also said that, at the whim of the young mistress, Aiden began to engage in activities unusual for him, and his unscheduled trips from the estate also became more frequent. The woman explained that despite the fact that the young lady was still a child herself, she managed the duties of the servants at her own will. The nanny also admitted that she began to suspect that the new servants were trying to mock her, pestering her with questions in every possible way. Madame Whitney considered the girl's chaotic behavior a manifestation of her such a young age. The woman explained that it was necessary to take into account that the young master still found it difficult to express his own opinion, and therefore there was a danger that he would completely fall under the influence of Madame Aiden. The nanny suggested that this situation might make the young master seem like an easy target for other families. The Duchess listened to her and replied that she understood what the woman meant. Madame Whitney thanked Mistress Isabella and said she would tell the young mistress to stop. The Duchess interrupted the nanny and told her not to restrict Aiden. Isabella explained that the girl could not be judged solely by her age and ordered Madame Whitney to temporarily stop studying Aiden. The nanny thought that such a careless approach by the boy's parents was due to the fact that they did not want to waste their time and were still not interested in their own child. Madame Whitney accepted the Duchess's decision and decided to let Aiden do as she pleased. The woman answered Isabella that she understood her and pledged to carry out her instructions. Taking into account the report of the boy's nanny, Duchess Isabella thought that their daughter-in-law had character. The next morning, Mona told the girl that she had heard that Madame Whitney had reported to the boy's parents yesterday. The nanny advised Aiden to show her best side during breakfast. Aiden entered the girl's room and she joyfully rushed to him. Aiden asked how the boy slept today. The children held hands and began to look at each other. They were ready to go have breakfast with the boy's parents. The girl was glad that Aiden felt more confident. The family gathered around the large dining table. The girl noticed that this was their first meal together with Mom and Dad. The Duchess agreed with this and wished him bon appétit. No one spoke during breakfast. Aiden was a little embarrassed, but she still happily declared that the salad they ate was very tasty. Aiden's mother calmly replied that she was glad that the girl liked the dish. Aiden thought the Duchess was acting like a choke. After some time, the Duchess met Aiden in the garden. The woman offered the girl tea that they had brought from the trip. Aiden curtsied and thanked Isabella for the invitation. The girl admitted that she was looking forward to the return of the Duchess and called her mom. The woman asked if the girl had any mishaps in a new environment with new people. Aiden thanked her for her concern and explained that the servants had been very nice to her. The girl grinned and said that all the people in the estate were very kind. The Duchess replied that she was glad to hear this. Isabella noticed that the tea was well brewed and suggested Aiden try it. The woman explained that the petals of this tea grew only on their lands. Aiden drank some tea and thought that her receptors might not have gotten used to it yet because it seemed too bitter to her. The Duchess asked what impression the girl had about this tea. Aiden replied that she was not an expert on tea flavors. The girl put the cup on the table and explained that it was difficult for her to judge because the tea did not have a sweet taste. Isabella accepted the girl's answer and said that Aiden should have poured another tea then. The maid immediately began to pour the girl a drink. Aiden began to drink another tea with pleasure because it had a fruity flavor, which she considered the best. The Duchess explained to the girl that in the future she had to adhere to one rule. The woman believed that Aiden should not have drunk or eaten anything that did not suit her taste. It was necessary to choose only what the girl liked. Aiden agreed with Isabella and promised to try to follow this rule. The Duchess said that she had heard how well the girl got along with Aiden. The girl replied that she and Aiden decided to support each other. The boy's mother hoped that it would be the same in the future and told her daughter-in-law about this. Aiden drank tea and did not understand what was on the Duchess's mind. The girl wanted to know whether the woman intended to discuss Madame Whitney's report. The Duchess explained that Aiden was now a member of the Leinster family, and therefore should have the corresponding privileges. The girl was a little worried by the woman's words. Isabella said that 4 times a year their family redistributed the responsibilities of all workers and invited the girl to do it this time. Aiden agreed to this, although she understood that the task was not an easy one and even a small mistake could lead to big problems. But at the same time, it was a great opportunity. After some time, the girl came to visit Aiden. The children lay down on the bed, and the boy began to ask about how the tea party with Herzegovina went. Aiden replied that everything was wonderful. The girl suggested that next time everyone should drink a cup of tea together. Aiden replied that he had never participated in such ceremonies before. Erin believed it was time to fix this. Erin held out her palms to the boy and explained that if he suddenly became uncomfortable, he would need to take her hands, and the girl could always talk to him. Aiden asked Erin if she really wanted to take on the reassignment responsibilities. The girl assumed that he was worried about her. Erin took his hands and tried to calm him down. She explained that she agreed because she wanted it. The boy thought that Erin was treating him like a child again. Suddenly, Aiden lay down on the bed and pulled the girl along with him. He told Erin that he believed that she would succeed. The girl thought that the boy was very cute, and this made her want to take care of him even more. After some time, Madame Whitney asked the girl if she would take over the distribution of responsibilities in this quarter. Erin confirmed the boy's nanny's guesses and explained that the Duchess had entrusted this to her personally. The girl was holding in her hands a document in which the maid had to outline all her preferred jobs. Madame Whitney wished good luck and good work to the young lady, since this was her first reassignment, and then turned around and left. Erin was a little surprised that the boy's nanny left so easily. The girl could not understand what Madame Whitney was up to, and besides, the words of Aiden's mother seemed a little strange to her. The woman began to persuade some of the servants. She told them that this time the young mistress could burden them with the most difficult tasks, and the nanny would not be able to prevent this. The servants were very worried and wanted to know what to do in this situation. Madame Whitney suggested that the servants begin to protest. The workers said they would not dare to protest. The woman explained to them that they should have shown the girl the true nature of this estate, and suggested that Erin could not stand it if several adults immediately raised their voices against her. Erin reviewed each employee's previous employment records and reassigned them based on experience and competency. The servants began to heatedly discuss their new duties. The workers, who were persuaded by Madame Whitney, expressed their disagreement with the appointment. The girl explained that they should work hard, and next time she would take this into account. The servants did not want to do what the girl planned for them. They stated that they had previously coped well with their tasks and demanded to know why they took on the new job. The maid suggested that Erin was discriminating against them because of Madame Whitney, as well as ignoring their skills and deliberately assigning inappropriate tasks. The girl explained that previously the maid was in charge of distributing medicine, and the man was in charge of Aiden's dressing room. After that, she told them to follow her. Erin showed the maid her workstation and said that over a 3-month period, she had found 5 cases of erroneous entries that were due to the maid not recognizing herbal remedies. Then the girl showed large bags of spoiled tea leaves that had not been thrown away for a month. Erin went to Aiden's dressing room to show the mistakes that the servant who was supposed to look after her had made. The girl showed the worker a jar of buttons and explained that she had collected 9 buttons yesterday, but a few moments later she found one and threw it into the jar with the others. After that, Erin showed the man the unfolded folds that were on the sleeves. The servant was very frightened that the girl had found so many mistakes in his work. The girl was confident that she was right and demanded that the servants tell them again that all this time they had been coping well with the tasks. The man began to make excuses and say that all these mistakes were insignificant, and one way or another, they slipped through during the work process. The servant accused Erin of telling them off one-sidedly. The girl explained that each of the listed tasks was important for their dukedom. The worker continued to stand his ground and insisted that now everyone was putting weeding and fertilizer disposal on the back burner. Erin began to suspect something was wrong about this. The night before, Aiden had warned the girl that Madame Whitney was ready to do anything. Erin understood this, but explained that it was not yet known what exactly was on the boy's nanny's mind. The girl asked the boy not to worry, because in order not to throw Madame Whitney out, Erin would do everything in her power. Aiden suggested that Whitney would do everything to make Erin fail, and would use his supporters to do this, and would certainly try to attract the attention of the Duchess. The servants accused the young mistress of being too young for such matters and making a mistake in the distribution of responsibilities. At that moment, the Duchess came and demanded to know what was happening here. The maids and workers began to look back excitedly. Behind Isabella stood Madame Whitney, who politely apologized to the girl and explained that she could not stand aside and ask the Duchess for help. Aiden's nanny explained that the servants were unhappy with the new distribution of duties. The woman assumed that the young lady tried very hard, but alas, she made several mistakes due to inexperience. The Duchess wanted to know the truth and asked the girl about it. Erin said that she had been talking to all the servants over the past few days and had discovered several problems in the process. The girl explained that the people had a lot of work experience, but they were assigned completely inappropriate duties, and some of the servants were incompetent in the positions they were in, and because of this, the work was carried out ineffectively. Madame Whitney explained to the Duchess that the girl was still inexperienced because people could not be trusted with only those tasks that they themselves preferred, and Erin assigned these duties to them of her own free will. Mistress Isabella said that Erin had every right to do as she wanted because the girl was part of the family. The Duchess considered the nanny's reproaches about Erin's inexperience inappropriate. Madame Whitney replied that she only meant that people should have strong arguments not to take on assigned duties. The girl intervened in the conversation and explained that on the estate there were duties despised by everyone, which nevertheless must be fulfilled. Cleaning the stables and bathrooms began to be considered a punishment, and the person punished became an object of ridicule. Erin believed that if you use only the stick and do not alternate it with the carrot, then no one will want to work. She suggested rewarding the servants. The Duchess was surprised at the girl's proposal. The young lady insisted that the reward would motivate people to take on duties they disliked. The girl said that when she was sick, she took disgusting medicine, but she was rewarded with delicious chocolate-covered strawberries, and thanks to this, she always took her medicine. Erin was very enthusiastic and admitted to the Duchess that just the thought of the lovely strawberries dulled the terrible taste in her mouth. Isabella suggested that chocolate-covered strawberries were not the best way to reward the servants, and asked Erin to voice her proposal. The girl suggested using the money to motivate the servants to work more efficiently. Madame Whitney tried to convince the Duchess that the wages of the servants in the estate were already high, and people would never overwork themselves for the sake of extra money. The servants liked the girl's idea and began to express their support. Maids and workers stated that they were not averse to working overtime because they had their families to support. One of the maids told the Duchess that they were not against the young lady sharing their responsibilities in the future, and the other servants supported her. Although the girl was still young and had recently moved to the estate, she was in awe of all the preferences of the workers. The Duchess agreed to adjust the payment of salaries as suggested by Erin, and also said that she would make efforts to create more comfortable conditions for workers. Erin admitted that it was still difficult for her to manage such issues in detail. She tried to talk and look like a 10-year-old child would. Madame Whitney continued to insist that the Duchess change her mind, because the discipline of the staff could be undermined if concessions were made to them and extra pay for hard work. The nanny said that rumors might spread, and every second person would start begging to take him to work. She believed that society would think that the great family had squandered its former pride because of a girl. The Duchess reminded Madame Whitney of how Aiden had a period when he suffered a serious illness. When Aiden was seriously ill, the Duchess was sent to a reception at the Imperial Palace. She was told that she could not risk the pride of the entire family over one child. During that period, the nanny took care of the boy for 3 days and 3 nights. The abilities of the future heir were questioned, and Isabella was very worried about this, although she was reproached for showing emotions. The Duchess at that time was reproached for having a weak character, and with her actions, she was ruining the future of her son. Then Isabella highly valued caring for Aiden and chose Madame Whitney as her nanny. Aiden's mother was required to pull herself together and behave like a duchess. Otherwise, even the servants would laugh at her. The Duchess did not give Madame Whitney power over the other servants because the woman was the only one qualified for it. Isabella saw the sincerity in her when Whitney cared for Aiden. Isabella had already been told that when she became the next Duchess of the House of Leinster, and therefore she had to be calm and stand her ground. Otherwise, the whole secular world would begin to whisper rumors about her. The Duchess admitted that she believed that Madame Whitney could also take care of the servants, because Isabella did not trust her for the sake of the family. This confession greatly excited the nanny. Aiden's mother entered the room and closed the door behind her. She thought about what the nanny said about her son, and also about how Erin was able to get along with the employees and skillfully distribute their responsibilities. Isabella ordered a maid named Helena to find out about all the activities of Madame Whitney in their estate, and the more information she could find out, the better. Mona told the girl that she had heard briefly that the Duchess had begun to follow Madame Whitney. The nanny noticed that Elena began to openly conduct an investigation, and this seemed suspicious to her. Erin lay in bed and sipped tea. She began to think that the Duchess really cared about Aiden. The girl wanted to tell Isabella everything she knew about Madame Whitney. She was worried that if the Duchess turned out to be an incompetent parent, it could only hurt Aiden more. Mona helped the girl get dressed, and Erin mentally assumed that if the Duchess did not know about Whitney's tricks, then it means that she did not play a big role in Aiden's life, although she loved him. The girl believed that Aiden had a very difficult time, and the parents had to see everything with their own eyes. The family gathered around the dinner table, and Erin thought that meals were the only time the whole family got together. The girl had been watching the boys' parents for the past few days, and concluded that their relationship was very strained. The Duke and Duchess didn't even make eye contact as they ate. After finishing his meal, Aiden thanked his parents for the food. Erin suggested that the boy would now go to training and wished him good luck in this. Aiden smiled back at the girl, and then the Duchess turned to him too. The woman wanted to say something, but almost immediately changed her mind. The Duchess wished the boy a good day, and this surprised him very much. Aiden thanked his mother for this and went to training. After the boy left, Erin told his parents that he was working tirelessly. The girl explained that after training, Aiden walked around the garden at the allotted time. The Duchess was surprised by what Erin told her. The girl also said that Aiden was looking for ways to further hone his skills. As the girl expected, the Duchess went to the garden immediately after Erin told her about Aiden's schedule. The girl hid in the garden not far from Aiden and his mother and watched them through binoculars. Erin understood that the Duchess was very worried about her son, but she simply could not express it correctly. Erin watched Isabella and Aiden and sensed the awkwardness that existed between mother and son, even from a distance. The girl assumed that they would separate without saying a word to each other. Deciding that the boy and the Duchess need help, Erin quickly goes to them. The girl is in a hurry and accidentally runs into the Duke. Erin greeted the boy's dad, but he only grunted in response and walked past her. The man sat down on a bench and began to watch how his son and wife met in the garden. The girl was stunned that the Duke also had difficulty communicating with his son. She offered him binoculars so the man could see his family better.